The stars hung silent in the dark sea of space. The HSS Revenant, a massive human dreadnought, moved slowly along the edge of the Orion Arm. Its hull, black as night, blended into the void. At over 3 kilometers long, the ship was a floating fortress. Thick armor, advanced shielding, and artificial intelligence made it one of the most powerful warships humanity had ever built. Inside the command bridge, Captain Rhea Carter stood with her hands behind her back, eyes fixed on the main display. She was tall, with short black hair and sharp gray eyes. Her uniform was crisp, and her expression was calm. She had commanded the Revenant for 6 years. Under her leadership, the ship had never taken serious damage. No enemy had ever set foot inside. Still no response from the scout teams. She asked, her voice steady. "No, ma'am," replied Lieutenant Harris, her communications officer. "3 of our border scouts vanished without trace. No distress signals. No debris." Rhea narrowed her eyes. "Empire, possibly. But it doesn't fit their usual patterns. This is stealthy, clean." Rhea turned back to the screen. Somewhere out there something was watching. Then the alarm sounded. "Contact," shouted Tactical Officer Vega. "Unidentified vessel just exited FTL. It's large, very large." The display flashed red. A massive ship appeared on the edge of the sensor range, alien in shape with long curved wings and glowing purple engines. It was almost the same size as the Revenant, but its surface pulsed like it was alive. "Galactic Empire vessel confirmed," Vega said. "Transmitting hail." The crew held their breath as the alien signal came through. A tall figure appeared on screen, an alien with green-gray skin, black eyes and golden armor. His voice was deep and smooth, but cold. "I am Admiral Vorik, of the Galactic Empire. Your presence here violates the peace line. Your vessel is now property of the Empire. Surrender and prepare to be boarded." The bridge fell silent. Rhea stepped forward slowly. She didn't blink. "This is Captain Rhea Carter, of the HSS Revenant. You've entered sovereign human space. Turn around or you will be fired upon." Vorik's eyes narrowed. "Your threats mean nothing. Humans are fragile, weak. We will take what we want." The signal cut. Lieutenant Harris looked at Rhea. "What now, Captain?" Rhea exhaled slowly and walked to her command chair. "Now," she said, "we show them what human weakness looks like." "All hands to battle stations," she ordered. "Seal all decks. Power up the defense grid. Prepare for boarding." The lights dimmed as the ship shifted into high alert. Steel doors slid into place. Drones hummed to life in the walls. Guns turned in their turrets. Far outside, small Empire boarding pods launched toward the Revenant, glowing hot as they burned through space. Rhea sat down in her chair, her voice calm and even. "Let them come." The silence of space was broken by the sharp hiss of engines. Dozens of sleek Empire boarding pods raced toward the HSS Revenant, like metallic arrows. Each pod carried 10 armored soldiers, tall, strong, and bred for war. They believed they were the best. They had conquered planets with ease. Boarding a human ship, they thought, would be no different. But this was not just any human ship. Inside the Revenant, the crew moved with calm precision. Red lights pulsed along the walls. Steel bulkheads locked into place. The ship had no panic. It had been built for this moment. Captain Rhea Carter stood on the command bridge, watching the pods approach. "Tactical," she said. "Status on the defense grid." "Online and ready," Vega replied. "Interior traps are armed. Drones are in motion. Automated countermeasures standing by." "Let them breach," Rhea said. The crew did not question her. They trusted her. More than that, they trusted the ship. The first boarding pod hit the hull with a deep clang. Then another, then 10 more. With pinpoint accuracy, the pods drilled through the thick armor and latched onto airlocks. Explosives blew open sealed doors. Smoke and sparks filled the corridors. Empire soldiers poured into the Revenant, weapons raised, eyes scanning, but they saw no resistance. The halls were empty. No gunfire, no crew, just silence. "This is too quiet," one soldier muttered. They advanced in formation, splitting into squads and moving deeper into the ship. The corridors were wide and cold, lit only by dim red emergency lights. Strange clicking noises echoed from behind the walls. No footsteps, no breathing, just machines. Then it began. The first trap activated. A squad turned a corner, and floor panels dropped away beneath them. 3 soldiers fell into a sealed pit. High-voltage arcs snapped across the space. Their suits smoked. They didn't get up. The others opened fire on the walls in panic. But the walls were not the enemy. Drones descended from hidden hatches in the ceiling, small, fast, and deadly. They moved like insects, blades spinning, eyes glowing red. One drone sliced the leg of a soldier before vanishing into the vents. Screams echoed down the corridor. The Empire soldiers started to run, but the ship had already learned their movements. Doors closed behind them. Gas flooded the halls, not lethal, but it burned the eyes, clouded vision, made them cough. One squad tried to break through a locked door. It opened suddenly, and a mounted turret sprayed stun rounds with terrifying speed. 3 more down. On the bridge, Rhea watched the action from overhead cameras. "They thought we'd meet them with rifles," she said. "They didn't think the ship would fight back." Lieutenant Harris smiled grimly. "It's hunting them, one by one." Rhea nodded. "Keep the crew sealed in the core. No direct contact. We let the Revenant do what it was made to do." In another corridor, a squad of Empire soldiers tried to override a control panel. The moment they made contact, the wall next to them exploded outward. A drone as large as a man stepped out. Not sleek, brutal, covered in armor, armed with twin shock cannons. It didn't speak. It only fired. Empire Command tried to coordinate from their ship, but communication was jammed. No signals were getting back. Their forces were inside a black box, inside a trap. After 20 minutes, over half the Empire soldiers had been neutralized, either captured, unconscious, or worse. The rest were lost, isolated in a maze that shifted around them. Corridors closed. Routes changed. Lights flickered to confuse them. They had invaded a fortress built by humans, but guarded by a mind. The Revenant was not just a ship. It was a weapon. And now it had been unleashed. Rhea sat calmly in her chair, eyes on the feed. "Status of boarding teams?" she asked. Thega answered without looking up. "Confused, trapped, scattered." Rhea leaned forward. "Good." The corridors of the HSS Revenant no longer felt like part of a ship. They felt like a living thing. Dark, shifting, dangerous. Empire soldiers, once confident and calm, now moved with hesitation. Their squads were scattered. Their maps were useless. Routes that were clear minutes ago were now sealed. Doors led to dead ends. Lights flickered. Mechanical hissing echoed through the vents. Every sound made them tighten their grip on their weapons. Lieutenant Castle, one of Admiral Vorak's best team leaders, tried to contact command again. "Vorak, this is Alpha Team. We need extraction." "Repeat, extraction." Static answered him. He slammed his fist against the wall. They had come expecting resistance. Maybe some gunfire, a few Marines. What they got was a nightmare of traps and machines that learned their movements, adjusted and hunted them. The Revenant was adapting. Castle's squad turned a corner, and the floor beneath them pulsed with a faint light. "Stop," Castle warned. Too late. One soldier stepped on the wrong tile. The floor exploded. A directed energy blast vaporized him where he stood. The squad scattered. Hidden panels opened above them, dropping small drones that clamped to armor and detonated. Non-lethal, but strong enough to knock a soldier out cold. Castle dragged one of his injured men behind a support beam. He checked his scanner. Still no signal. No clear path. The ship had jammed everything. Elsewhere in the ship, other Empire squads were trying to regroup. Some found sealed doors. Others entered long, empty corridors that looped back on themselves. One group tried to cut through a wall, only to trigger a sonic burst that knocked them unconscious. On the bridge, Captain Rhea Carter monitored it all. "Drone activity adapting to movement patterns," reported Vega. "Keep them moving in circles," Rhea said. "Force them into the decoy zone." She had prepared a special section of the ship just for this. A trap inside a trap. A place where the walls would seal tight, and then explode. The moment arrived. "Alpha and Delta teams are moving toward the false engine core," said Harris. "Good," Rhea replied. "Send the trigger signal." In the lower decks, several squads of Empire soldiers broke through a sealed bulkhead. What they found looked like a power room. Tall reactors, blinking lights, humming cores. The soldiers believed they had reached the ship's engine controls. They were wrong. It was bait. As they moved deeper into the chamber, magnetic locks snapped into place behind them. Thick walls dropped from above. There was no way out. Then came a quiet beep. Kazal, who had just entered the chamber, froze. His eyes widened. "Get down," he shouted. But it was too late. A bright flash lit the chamber. The decoy core detonated. The blast didn't destroy the ship. It was controlled, but it sent a shockwave through the decks. Armor crumpled. The air shook. Soldiers inside were thrown like dolls. The cameras on the bridge showed the aftermath. Bodies sprawled across the floor, most unconscious, some worse. Rhea leaned back in her chair. That should get their attention. She turned to Harris. "Record the footage. Send it to Admiral Vorek's ship." Within seconds the message reached the Empire command ship floating nearby. Vorek stood at the center of his bridge, arms crossed when the hologram appeared. It showed his best soldiers lying defeated in smoke-filled corridors. Drones floated past their still bodies. The human captain's voice echoed through the feed. "This is Captain Rhea Carter. You sent your best. They weren't enough. Your war ends here." Vorek's jaw tightened. His officers looked shaken, but he raised a hand for silence. "She plays games," he growled. "She hides behind machines." He turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare my armor. I will board the ship myself." His officers hesitated. "But Admiral, the conditions—" "I gave no permission to speak," Vorek snapped. "Humans must see what true strength is." As the preparation began on the Empire ship, Rhea watched the incoming data on her side. More movement, more life signs. One of them larger than the others. Her expression didn't change. "So," she said softly, "now the beast enters the cage." Admiral Vorak stood in full combat armor, heavier than any worn by his soldiers. Polished black plating covered his body. His helmet, shaped like a sharp mask, hissed as it sealed shut. Twin plasma blades hung at his sides, humming softly. Every step he took shook the floor beneath him. He was not just a commander. He was a symbol of the Empire's power. In his mind, humans were still primitive, fragile, clever perhaps, but weak. And no machine, no ship, no trap could match him face to face. He entered his personal boarding pod without a word. His guards, 6 elite warriors in advanced armor, followed closely. None of them spoke either. They were loyal to the end. As the pod launched toward the HSS Revenant, Vorak kept his eyes locked forward. "She hides behind her ship," he growled. "Let her face me in flesh." Inside the Revenant, Captain Rhea Carter watched his pod approaching. "He's coming aboard," Harris confirmed. Larger signature. Life signs steady. "It's him." "Status of the decoy bridge?" Rhea asked. "Ready." She nodded. "Seal all decks. Route him there." No resistance. Vorak's pod slammed into the hull. Sparks and heat exploded around the breach. The outer airlock peeled back under the pod's claws. The entrance tunnel extended into the corridor. Vorak stepped into the ship. It was dark and quiet, just like before. The corridor lights glowed faintly red. No bullets, no drones, only silence. His guards moved ahead of him, weapons drawn. One spoke. "This is a trap." "I know," Vorak said. "And I will spring it." They advanced deeper into the ship. This time the path seemed clearer. No shifting walls, no gas, No drones, only signs of battle, scorched walls, fallen Empire soldiers, flickering lights. It looked like a ship in retreat. Exactly what Rhea wanted it to look like. Vorak and his team reached a tall sealed door marked Command Deck. He stepped forward, cut it open. One guard attached a charge to the lock. It sparked and hissed. The door slid open. Inside was a large chamber with chairs, consoles, and a central command throne. Screens lined the walls, showing stars and drifting debris. But no crew, no guards, just the voice of Captain Rhea. "Welcome, Admiral." Vorak turned sharply. The voice came from hidden speakers. "You came for glory, to lead, to show your empire that humans would kneel before your strength." He raised his weapon. "Show yourself, coward." Rhea's voice remained calm. "Why would I fight you in person? You're inside my ship, and I don't need to lift a finger to defeat you." Vorak shouted, "Enough." He swung his plasma blade into a nearby console, cutting it in half. "You hide behind walls and wires. I will tear them all down." With a loud metallic clang, the doors behind him sealed shut. Thick blast panels dropped from the ceiling. The walls pulsed. The chamber shifted. Lights cut out. The floor under Vorak's guards opened. They dropped one by one into containment cells below. Only Vorak remained. He looked around, breathing hard inside his helmet. His weapons hummed. His fists tightened. "You think this breaks me?" he growled. "I think you are already broken," Rhea answered. A hiss of gas filled the room. Vorak activated his helmet's filter, but the gas wasn't poison. It was heavier. It slowed movement, fogged vision, targeted nerve systems. His limbs felt heavier. His hands moved slower. He swung blindly at the walls, but his strength was slipping. Then the floor shifted again. A magnetic field engaged, locking his boots in place. He was trapped, not by a cage, but by precision, patience, and planning. "You came looking for a fight," Rhea said. "You walked into a lesson." Vorak fell to one knee, gasping. The lights turned back on. He was alone in a sealed glass cell. He could see the stars through the window. The vastness of space, so close, and yet unreachable. Rhea's voice came one last time. "We are not weak. We are prepared." He didn't respond. He couldn't. He lowered his head. On the bridge, Rhea stood from her chair. "Status of the target?" she asked. "Contained," Vega said. "Vital signs stable. Armor deactivated. No escape." Rhea turned to her crew. "Stand down from red alert. Begin lockdown reset." The bridge lights returned to white. The sound of quiet relief passed through the air. No cheers, no applause, just the feeling of survival and victory. Captain Harris said, "Empire command ship is no longer transmitting. They're silent." Rhea looked at the screen. The enemy ship sat outside, unmoving. "They're waiting for their admiral," she said. "He won't be coming back." The Empire's command ship floated silently in space. Its lights dimmed. No signals were sent. No orders given. Inside, the officers stood frozen around the central display. They had just watched their admiral disappear into the HSS Revenant. They had expected a swift, brutal victory. But there was only silence now. And fear. They had lost contact with the boarding teams. Dozens of their best soldiers, gone. Their transmissions had ended mid-battle, some with screams, others with static. The last video feed, the one sent by Captain Rhea Carter, played on loop before them. Vorak, their proud leader, had walked into the ship with confidence. Now he was gone, trapped, defeated. Commander Talek, the second in command, stared at the screen. His pale, scaled face was drawn tight with tension. He clenched his jaw and looked at the ship beyond the viewport. The Revenant. It didn't move. It didn't need to. It sat in space like a predator, quiet and unshaken. "Commander," one officer whispered. "What are your orders?" Talek hesitated. He had always believed in Empire dominance, in their technology, in their strength. But what he had seen shook that belief. This was not just a ship. It was a fortress, a trap, a warning. He took a slow breath. "Recall the remaining scout ships," he said. "Prepare for retreat." "But the Admiral is captured," Talek said sharply. "And if we stay, more will follow." We underestimated the humans. That will not happen again. He gave the order. Engines lit up across the Empire ship's surface. The vessel turned slowly, breaking formation. Smaller craft detached and vanished into faster-than-light jumps. The Dreadnought watched silently as its enemy slipped away. Back on the Revenant, the crew stood ready at their stations, tracking every movement. They're turning around, Vega reported. Confirm retreat vectors, Rhea said, voice calm. Confirmed, said Harris. They're leaving the system. Full withdrawal. Rhea nodded once. No pursuit. Let them go. The bridge remained quiet. No cheers. No laughter. Just the sound of systems powering down from combat mode. Shields lowered. Defense systems returned to standby. The ship began to breathe again. Rhea rose from her chair and walked toward the observation window. She looked out at the black sea of stars. The Empire ship was just a speck now, its engines flaring as it jumped to light speed. It was over. She turned to Harris. Status of the prisoner. Admiral Vorak is secure in cell block 1. No resistance. Medical scans show he's stable. Good, Rhea said. Let him sit there a while. Let him think. She knew the message had been delivered, not just to Vorak, but to the entire Empire. Humanity was no longer seen as prey, not after today. In the lower levels of the ship, inside a reinforced cell, Admiral Vorak sat in silence. His armor had been removed, his weapons gone. He stared at the wall, unmoving. He had never known defeat, not until now. His guards, 2 human Marines, stood outside the cell. They didn't speak to him. They didn't need to. The quiet was punishment enough. A camera watched him from above. On the bridge, Rhea had access to the feed. She watched for a long moment. Then she turned it off. Signal Earth Command, she said. Tell them the Revenant is still standing. Enemy retreat confirmed. No casualties among crew. 1 high-value prisoner. Harris nodded and began the transmission. Outside, the stars drifted past the hull. Quiet, beautiful, cold. After a moment of silence, Vega turned to Rhea. Do you think they'll come back? Rhea answered without hesitation. Yes, but next time they won't underestimate us. She looked at the stars again, the edge of human space just beyond, and we'll be ready. 2 days had passed since the battle. The HSS Revenant drifted quietly through space, holding its position at the edge of the Orion Arm. From a distance, it looked untouched. No fire scars, no visible damage, but inside, the ship was slowly waking from its long controlled fury. Crew members walked the halls again. Technicians checked systems, engineers reviewed logs. Damage reports came in, though none were serious. Most of the harm had been internal. Walls torn open by the Empire's pods, drones expended, a few systems overloaded from the defense grid's full activation. But no lives were lost. Not one. In the command bridge, Captain Rhea Carter stood before the central display. Her uniform was clean, her posture sharp as ever. She hadn't slept much, but her mind was clear. Lieutenant Harris stepped forward. Message from Fleet Command just came through. Rhea turned. Let's hear it. A voice played from the console. Admiral Dalton, her superior back on Earth. Captain Carter, your report has been received. The loss of contact from the border scouts had us worried. Your actions have not only prevented further aggression, but sent a clear message to the Empire. Hold position. Reinforcements will arrive in 3 days. Earth is proud of you. Fleet Command out. The message ended. For a moment, the bridge was quiet. Then Harris spoke again. They really didn't expect us to hold the line, did they? Rhea gave a small, tired smile. No, but they will now. She looked at the display, now showing a map of the sector. Human space glowed in soft blue. Beyond that, the gray zone of the Empire, still vast, still dangerous. But there was now a space between them. A line the Empire had touched and been burned. Below the command deck, in the brig, Admiral Vorak still sat in silence. He had refused food the first day. The second day, he ate. On the third he spoke, only once. Your kind is not what we believed. The Marine guarding him had simply nodded. No argument, no pride, just agreement. Even the enemy could see the truth now. On the upper decks, Rhea walked the halls alone. She passed engineering, where drones were being repaired. She passed the mess hall, where tired crew shared quiet meals. Some talked softly. Others just ate. There were no grand speeches, no victory celebrations, just recovery. Routine. The work that followed survival. At the observation deck, she paused. The stars stretched out before her, quiet, eternal. She placed one hand on the glass. The Empire would come again. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not for years. But someday, and they would come stronger, smarter, harder. That was fine, because so would humanity. Rhea's voice was quiet but firm. Let them come. Behind her the Revenant pulsed with life. Its systems hummed. Its lights glowed. Its defenses, though quiet, were ready. One ship had stood against an empire, and won, not by brute force, not by luck, but by will. Strategy, unity, the will of Earth. Rhea turned away from the stars and walked back to the bridge. There was still work to do.